Okay, well, we're going to get started. Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar today. And if you're in the UK or Europe and you've been sweltering in heat wave, then we're going to take a deep dive today into the cool, nutrient-rich waters of the Galapagos Marine Reserve. Those of you who are familiar with, or those of you who are shark fans, I should say, may already know that today is Shark Awareness Day. So it's a day to celebrate these often maligned, misunderstood creatures. Um, Sharks have a vital role for our oceans, keeping them healthy. They keep prey species in check. They transport nutrients across the ocean, and they even help with our natural defenses against climate change. Today, we're going to be focusing on one shark in particular, and that is the whale shark, which you can hopefully see on your screens in front of you. It's the biggest shark of all, the biggest fish in the sea, and obviously a regular visitor to Galapagos Islands. At GCT, we've been supporting whale shark conservation for over a decade through the Galapagos Whale Shark Project. And the funding that we've been providing to the project is helping us to really understand how these animals behave, where they go on these epic migrations, and what we need to do to better protect them. And that research has already been vital to the expansion of the Galapagos Marine Reserve, which happened in 2022. But we also know that marine reserves on their own are not enough. These are migratory animals. They travel vast distances through international waters. So we're really happy a few days ago to see that the UK government has now joined Ecuador and many other countries in ratifying the new United Nations High Seas Treaty. The reason that's important is because that treaty will allow for the creation of protected areas in international waters. So we're hoping that's a sign that the UK government and our new Prime Minister are going to really be an active and constructive participant in that process, which will be really important for species like whale sharks. I'm going to hand over in a minute to our guest speaker, but just to let you know, the Q&A box is open at the bottom of your screen. So that is a separate thing to the chat. So you can pop in your questions there and we'll get through as many as we can at the end. So our speaker today is Sofía Green. She grew up in Galapagos. She's a marine biologist. She has been working with the Galapagos Whale Shark Project, I believe, since 2017. She's also involved in environmental education on the islands, including the Gills Club, which is working to get more young girls in Galapagos engaged with shark science and ocean science. She is also an amazing freediver, photographer, and now star of a documentary film, Her Shark Story. So really happy to have Sofía with us today. Over to you.
Good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much, Tom, for that very kind introduction. And it's really exciting to be with all of you here today to share with you a little bit about what the Galapagos Whale Shark Project is doing to discover the secrets of these ocean giants. And also, after a decade or so of research, what we've been able to unveil about whale sharks in this region and how we're trying to protect them from becoming extinct. So, without further ado, let's dive into the ocean. So, I'm going to start with this quick question, which is something that a lot of you already know, but it's the question we most frequently get asked, and it's, is a whale shark a whale or a shark? And if we put them side by side and we start looking at our whale shark, which is on top next to our sharks and our whales, we start noticing certain features, right? The gill slits, the dorsal fin, pectoral fin, pelvic fins are more similar to the great white shark that we have at the bottom, as well as the side-to-side movement of the caudal fin. So we can see that it's a shark, and it's not only a shark, it's the largest shark to have lived, as Tom just mentioned. It is larger even than the extinct megalodon, who is thought to have measured up to 16 meters. The whale shark can grow up to 18 meters, and the largest one measured was even 20 meters, weighing up to about 21,000 kilograms. So these are larger than the average school bus. Pretty amazing sight to see, and one you never forget about. But even though it is the largest fish in the ocean, what do we know about them? You see, the whale shark is now the second most studied shark in the world, just after the great white shark. There are research projects all over the world trying to uncover the mysteries of these sharks. And yet, it's not for lack of trying that we still have so many questions that are unanswered. So what do we know about whale sharks? Well, we know that they like warm waters, making them a great species to study. So they have a circumglobal distribution primarily in tropical and temperate latitudes. So with a preference of about 23 degrees Celsius all the way up to 27, 28 degrees Celsius is what their preferred temperatures are. We know that they're found in all the tropical oceans in the world. And in the past, we used to say, except we wouldn't see them in the Mediterranean Sea. However, with a changing ocean, we are now getting rare sightings, but more than one sighting in the Mediterranean Ocean. So we know that this is slowly changing as well. And we know that they can dive to approximately 2,500 meters. So they're going super deep in the ocean, yet we don't know why. So that takes me to what do we not know about whale sharks? And it's a lot more than what we do know. Even though we're trying to study them around the world, we still don't know simple facts like their global population size. We don't truly know where they're reproducing. We hardly ever see adult females and adult males together. We don't know where the pups are born. There are hardly any registrations of neonates all around the world. And we don't know where they are the first 3 to 5 years of their life. When we start seeing them in aggregation areas around the coast of the world, we generally see them when they're already around 5 years old. So it's pretty interesting to know that we still have to uncover the first years of their lives, which are so important for their survival. Migratory routes, we're tracking them from different sites in the world, yet we rarely have resightings between tracking sites. So where do they spend most of their lives? And their diving behavior, we've uncovered that they can dive to at least 2,500 meters, thanks to the technological limit that we have available now. But we believe that they can go deeper. And then we still haven't answered the question, why do they go so deep? So that's what we're trying to uncover about the whale shark. And that's the work that we're doing with the Galapagos Whale Shark Project. So the Galapagos Whale Shark Project is a project that began in 2011 formally, and yet it began a little earlier in the 1990s when the first divers started going up to Darwin and Wolf Island, the islands far north of the reserve. And scuba divers like my own dad, Jonathan Green, the founder of the project, start realizing that there were whale sharks that were sighted there, and they were sighted frequently. Before this, nobody really knew that there were whale sharks up there. It was only the fishermen that would go up there and they would talk about this mythical cat shark that would rub against their boats. And so they started looking deeper into this and realized nobody knew anything about the whale sharks in Galapagos, but truly it was a worldwide issue, just not understanding these sharks at all. So he partnered up with Alex Hearn, Dr. Alex Hearn, and they decided to create the Galapagos Whale Shark Project in 2011. Since then, we have carried out yearly expeditions to study these species in the Galapagos Marine Reserve, primarily up in Darwin and Wolf. And the idea of this project was to try and understand them better, understand their ecology, their behavior, to be able to then see what is going on, not only inside the Galapagos, but in the general Eastern Tropical Pacific, to then be able to better protect them just in general. So what did they discover initially in the Galapagos? And they found out that we have a unique population worldwide. You see, in most constellations, which is what a group of whale sharks is called, around the world, you see them close to the coasts. And most of these whale sharks that you see close to coasts are going to be juveniles and a lot of males. And so the question was, where are the adults and where are the adult females that are rarely seen? And the Galapagos is a place where we see primarily adult females at a ratio not seen anywhere else in the world. So here you can see them and how you can tell the difference between males and females. You can see the claspers on the male and an open cloaca on the female on the right. And so this was very interesting, which opened a whole door into looking into reproduction, into looking at possible pupping grounds. It opened a whole new world into whale shark research. So what techniques are we carrying out with the Galapagos Whale Shark Project? We're carrying out satellite tagging, photo ID, ultrasounds, blood draws, amongst others. And I'll tell you a little bit about these. So for satellite tagging is a way of actively tracking whale sharks. We place tags on the whale sharks to be able to follow their movements once they leave the Galapagos Marine Reserve. And how do we place these tags? I show you a quick video here. We approach the whale shark, we never disturb the path of the whale shark, and simply place a clamp, pressure-held clamp, on the dorsal of the whale shark. We try and make it so the whale shark rarely even notices we're there. We film to make sure that the tag is placed on correctly, and off she goes. It's a matter of seconds. The whale shark is tagged, and off she goes. We hope for the best, and then Watcher on our computers through the Argo satellite system sends us information as to where our whale sharks are every time they reach the surface. We cannot track them when they're underneath the water. That's still a caveat that we need to figure out through technology. Next, we have photo identification. So we cannot actually tag every single whale shark out there, nor would we want to. But we do need to understand more about whale shark movements than simply from those that we are satellite tracking. So photo ID is a wonderful way of passively tracking. How does photo ID work? You see, any animal that has a swirl, a pattern, spots, stripes, we can use these patterns to identify each animal as a unique individual. So for whale sharks, it's this area that you see in this rectangle right behind the fifth dorsal, the fifth gill slit, sorry, right above the pectoral fin. It's that area that we have standardized to use to be able to use as your thumb fingerprint. So that is what we use to identify whale sharks as individuals. And what are we looking at? Well, what we need when we take the photo ID is we need to know the date that it's occurring in, the location where we're taking the photo ID. We look at the sex. So once again, look right beneath those pelvic fins that are right in that circle area. We estimate the size. It's really hard to measure the size of a whale shark as it's moving underwater because we never restrain them for science. We're always doing all of our work whilst that whale shark is still swimming freely in the ocean. And we're looking at the sea surface temperatures as well, just to understand temperature preferences and understand what drives their movements. For the most part, we've standardized so that people take the photo of the left side because the left side and the right side patterns are going to be different. So if we get everyone focusing on left side, it gives us a higher chance of then matching them in the future to say this is an individual that we know or this is a new individual. However, if you can't take a photo of the left side, you can take a photo of the right side, it works as well. And if you can take a photo of both sides, that's always best. And then we use full body photos to also look at features like scars that allow us to identify these individuals. So as I mentioned, photo ID allows us to passively track the sharks and allows us to study their population dynamics. So what we're looking at with these photos is how long do they stay in the areas where we're studying them? How often do they come back? How many of them are we seeing in the study sites? And if they don't come back, is this a potential sign of mortality? Of course, that has to be taken with a grain of salt. The coolest thing about photo ID is that it doesn't require you to be a scientist to participate in this. So any of you listening in today can actually participate in the photo ID of whale sharks and help us passively track whale sharks as well. So you can send your sightings either to this email, this WhatsApp, or upload them yourself to the www.sharkbook.ai and help us in protecting these whale sharks, discovering more about them and protecting these whale sharks. It's really exciting because that can be done with the whale sharks as I show you here, but we've also partnered with GCT to expand that with the whale sharks. And I share this with you quickly just to let you know that this can be done with so many other projects in the Galapagos. So if you're interested in supporting citizen science in the Galapagos in your next travel to the islands, or if anyone you know is traveling to the islands, you can share the Citizen Science Hub with them as well and participate in the research for many scientists in the Galapagos. Next, onto ultrasounds. So what are we doing with ultrasounds and how do you take an ultrasound of a free swimming wild whale shark? This is pretty exciting. You see, we had to develop an ultrasound that could go underwater. It was a normal human ultrasound. They just, with partnering up with the Okinawa Churashima Aquarium, we managed to create this briefcase where we modified it to hold the ultrasound underwater. So we take this ultrasound underwater. We had to superpower it because whale sharks are some of the animals with the thickest skin in the animal kingdom. So we had to superpower it to be able to see what we could find in the Galapagos. But why were we ultrasounding whale sharks in the Galapagos? You see, when we first started seeing whale sharks up in Darwin and Wolf, what everyone noticed was their mega size. You see, females are larger than males, and it was rare to see these giant whale sharks with this huge distended abdomen. So we thought maybe they could be pregnant. What do we know about whale shark reproduction? We know very, very little. All we know was from a whale shark that was caught off the coast of Taiwan in 1995. And when they opened her up, they found out she had 304 fetuses inside of her. And the most interesting thing was they were all at different stages of development. So some of them were still in egg cases, some of them were already swimming freely inside of the mother because whale sharks are ovoviviparous, which means they are born in egg cases. However, they are then live hatched inside the mother, and then they give birth to live young. And all these different pups were at different stages of development. And when they genetically sampled 30 of them, all 30 fetuses came from the same dad. And so that showed us why maybe we rarely see adult females and adult males out in the wild. If with a single mating, they could potentially produce 304 pups, and the female might potentially be storing sperm to then slowly be fertilizing her eggs and then maybe be pupping not in a single go, but pupping slowly in different areas of the ocean. So these are just a couple of hypotheses we have. So looking at the whale sharks in Galapagos, we thought this is our opportunity to maybe find the first signs of a pregnant whale shark in the Galapagos and see what this is about. So this is how we take ultrasounds of whale sharks in the Galapagos. We basically power up that ultrasound, scan that whale shark longitudinally and then transversely if we can. Quick scan as well, never trying to interrupt the path of the whale shark. And then we have our experts from the Okinawa Churaumi Aquarium also analyze the ultrasounds. And I'll tell you a little bit about the results in a minute. Together with the ultrasounds, we're also taking blood samples. You see, blood samples allow us to look at blood hormone levels and allow us to see maybe if the whale sharks are pregnant or not. Yet nobody had done this in the Galapagos before or anywhere in the world, so nobody knew even what the baseline of an adult non-pregnant whale shark was. So that's the first thing that we had to obtain. And also just learn how to draw blood from a whale shark in the wild. So here you can see one of the researchers drawing blood from the whale shark. He tried in a spot, wasn't successful, and so tries a different area on the pectoral fin. Finding a blood vessel on this giant pectoral fin is quite a challenge, but you can see he tried second dot. We have this long kind of tube system so that we can have a bit of a free movement rather than having a direct syringe in the whale shark so that we can be able to swim quietly next to the whale shark, and a double syringe system because the first syringe will always draw in contaminated blood since we have some seawater in the system. And then with a stopper, we move it to the second syringe and draw blood, pure blood, not contaminated seawater, into the second syringe system. So all of this also has to happen in the matter of seconds to a minute to be able to do it safely as we kind of swim out into the blue with the whale shark, always checking our depth to make sure we're being safe with a safety diver right by the person taking the blood sample. So there we were lucky to draw a successful blood sample, but it is definitely a challenge to get these samples when we're out in the field, but very exciting when we do. So with all this science that we're doing in the Galapagos, what have we discovered? So after 10 years of research, what have been some of the most exciting results? Well, first of all, with the satellite tracking, that gave us a lot of data. So with our first research, at the beginning of the project, we managed to first see what season are whale sharks sighted in the Galapagos. You see, initially people thought it was one individual, two individuals maybe swimming around Darwin's Arch during the cold season, which is between July and July and December. And we didn't know much more about them. And so little by little, with the outings to track the whale sharks, we found out that it is indeed only in the cold season that we see them up in Darwin. Mainly, we start seeing them between July and December. We get our peaks, and our first whale sharks usually appear between April and May. So we got that seasonal presence up in Darwin during the cold season. Next, we started looking at, okay, so how long do they stay here? What else can they tell us? And we found out that the whale sharks stay in Darwin, usually around 24 to 48 hours, and then they leave the Galapagos Marine Reserve. So truly, they're inside the protected waters of the Galapagos for very little time. Where do they go next? That's one of the biggest challenges. You see, what we discovered is the whale sharks that we tag in the Galapagos don't then head to the other study sites. So they head out into open ocean, and we don't yet know where they spend most of the year because our tags do not last generally a full year. And that's something we are working on right now. And another very interesting thing we discovered after years of tracking these sharks is, okay, so what motivates their movements? And looking closely at their movements once they left the Galapagos Marine Reserve, we noticed that they like to stay in this fringe between cold water currents and hot water currents. You see, in the Galapagos, we get this amazing warm water current that comes in from the north called the Panama Current. And then from the south, we get this amazing cold water current that brings all the nutrients into the Galapagos and allows life to flourish. It comes in from the south, all the way from Antarctica through the coast of South America into the Galapagos, and it creates this kind of biological front, this thermal front. And the whale sharks seem to like to stay in that thermal front. As I mentioned before, they have this preference of warm waters. Generally, between 24 to 26 degrees is what we found in the Galapagos to be their favorite temperatures. And they stay right in that fringe, close to the cold waters, where they probably are right in the edge of where they can also find food. They're not going to find a lot of food in the hot water, but they don't want to spend too much time in the cold water. This front also creates eddies, which is where nutrients are trapped, these kind of circular currents in this thermal front, and that's exactly where the whale sharks are found. So they're definitely following food when they head out of the Galapagos, and this gives us a bit of an indication of where we may find them based on where the thermal front is. As I mentioned, we've been tracking whale sharks for about a decade, so a little bit over a decade. And when we first looked at the tracks, it was highly confusing. Our whale sharks were not going from point A to point B. Instead, they would leave Darwin Island after 24 to 48 hours and kind of scatter around uh, just the Eastern tropical Pacific. And it was really hard for us to understand what was driving those movements until we started looking at them with finer detail and trying to understand where we might find them monthly. So when we look at 10 years of tracking in finer detail, we started noticing definitely what we first realized. Anywhere between June to November, July to December, we had these peaks up in Darwin and Wolf, the far northern islands of the Galapagos. But very neat, we also discovered that they seem to head off towards the coast of Peru and spend time here during December to February. But they were not reaching the coast of Peru, they were remaining offshore off the continental platform. We also discovered that when they leave and spend time in the west, heading kind of out into the open ocean, we find them there year round. And as I mentioned a second ago, most of our tracks do not last a full year. They will last maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So we still have to fill in that picture of where are they once we lose that data? How often do they return to the Galapagos? That's where photo ID comes in. So with Photo ID, we've been able to build up a catalog with the support of the local community. It's the guides, it's the fishermen, it's the guests, the visitors that come to Galapagos, plus the scientists. Everyone has started reporting the whale sharks that they see in the islands. And with everyone's support, we have now registered 826 different individuals in the Galapagos. This is really exciting because the more individuals we register in the Galapagos, the more potential we have of getting resightings and understanding how often these same sharks return to the islands. What we have been able to find for resightings so far is we've only had 26 resightings of all these 826 sharks. We've only seen 26 different sharks between different years. And we've recorded them coming back to the island after a year, after 4 years, 9 years, 12 years, even 17 years apart from that first report. And this is really exciting because every time we recite them, one, it lets us know that they're alive and well, but it's also slowly keying us in into how long do they live and where else they might be sighted. Next, we have the results from ultrasounds and blood draws. You see, with the collaboration of the Okinawa Churaumi Aquarium or the Okinawa Churashima Foundation, we finally managed to get the first baseline for blood to be able to understand what the hormone levels for a non-pregnant adult female were. So that is the first thing that we need to then be able to take blood draws and see just through hormone levels whether they may be pregnant or not. And of course, we're matching them together with the ultrasounds. And what these ultrasounds have shown is it surprised us. After maybe 10 years of thinking these whale sharks might be pregnant, we discovered actually we have up until now had no signs of pregnancy in the Galapagos. All we have seen is the presence of follicles confirmed in two of the ultrasounds that we have scanned, of the whale sharks that we have scanned, showing us that they're sexually mature whale sharks, but not pregnant yet. And so currently what we've done is we've analyzed these during certain times of the season when we've been able to go out with the ultrasound. This began in 2017, and we've only been able to go out with the ultrasound 3 times. And we've done it at the end of season, we've done it mid-season, but we want to continue doing it throughout the entire season to finally say maybe they're not pregnant in the Galapagos at all and change our hypothesis, which is one of the most exciting things about science, is sometimes instead of proving what we thought was our proving our hypothesis, it basically just allows us to ask questions again. If they're not pregnant here, are they on their way to pupping grounds? So that is an ongoing study, and it's really exciting because we have a new ultrasound. So we're going to be able to carry this out more frequently rather than just waiting to see if we have the funds to bring the ultrasound to Galapagos every other year or so. And then with the blood, once again, we've been looking at 3 blood hormones, and those are estradiol, testosterone, and progesterone. And what we discovered is the levels were very similar or lower too than those immature whale sharks in Okinawa. And also we've been looking at lactic acid in the blood draws, and so far have discovered that all the science that we're doing, if you know about lactic acid, it shows you signs of stress. So we really like to be able to take a blood draw from a whale shark that we've been photo IDing, tagging, ultrasounding. If we take the blood draw from that animal, it also allows us to see, is there science affecting these whale sharks? Or is scuba diving around whale sharks stressing these whale sharks out? And luckily, we found that none of the whale sharks that we have sampled have shown any signs of visible stress. So here we used to look at this side of the whale shark when you used to say, look, we have these whale sharks, large whale sharks arriving to the Galapagos, big distended abdomens. They must be pregnant. However, after running the ultrasounds, we noticed we should be looking at this area. So right in front of the pelvic fins, rather than behind the pelvic fins. And now that when we look at them, we notice actually they don't look that pregnant at all. And this big area right behind the pelvic fins is probably an area, or we've seen is an area of a lot of adipose tissue. So a lot of fat seen primarily in these giant females to be able to move these big bodies and probably sustain them when they actually are pregnant. So it's very interesting to see that so far, no signs of pregnancy in the Galapagos. Doesn't mean to say we will not find it in the future, but it is an ongoing study. But we want to go further than just knowing the ecology and behavior of whale sharks. All this data, and the point of this data, is to be able to then protect these whale sharks. So what we've been doing as well is working as a global community. The whale shark community around the world is incredible. Everyone seems very willing to share data so that we can reach bigger conclusions than just if we kept our data in the research, the study site where we are working in. So we're working in these global studies, and we were looking at overlap of whale shark tracks with vessel activity. And what we saw when we looked at the global image of where whale sharks are versus where the shipping industry is, which keeps growing every single day, what we found is that 92% of a shark's horizontal space use and nearly 50% of their vertical space use is overlapping with large vessels, so those that are over 300 gross tons. This is highly worrying. You see, whale sharks, even though they may dive deep, as I mentioned earlier, they actually spend most of their time, over 50% in the East Pacific, in at least 25 meters of water or above. So they are right in that direct path of collision with these large ships, which can easily cause mortality of the whale sharks. So, for a decade, we've been looking at whale sharks up in Darwin Island. So you can see it up there in the left. We have Darwin Island, this far remote island, and we used to believe that is where whale sharks were found in the Galapagos. And that's where we saw them between, June to December, the cool season, and that was the Galapagos season. And yet, it's a beautiful thing when you work with a local community, when you're working with the fishermen, you're working with the dive guides, the park rangers, the visitors, and you start getting a lot of reports from everyone. Everything changed. You see, we started getting reports of whale sharks being sighted frequently during the warm season. So between January all the way up until April, May, we were started to get frequent reports of them being sighted around San Cristobal Island, even around Santa Cruz Island, which is right smack in the center, Hispaniola Island, and even out west. So we thought initially it seemed like they were just kind of these rare sightings of whale sharks coming up to Darwin afterwards, potentially. We didn't think much about them. But after years of getting more and more sightings and more reports from the community, we thought this is definitely something we have to look further into, deeper into. And so, after a decade of knowing exactly where we need to scuba dive up in Darwin, Darwin's Arch is also known as the bus stop, super easy. We know the whale sharks are going to be there. Looking into whale sharks in the south was a whole new challenge. How do you find whale sharks in such a large region? So we had to change all of our methodologies. And rather than looking for them underwater via scuba diving, we then had to move to the air. We had to look for ways to have an aerial view of these areas. So what we did to study the new study sites in the south and southwest of the archipelago is we hired an ultralight in the first year of the study in 2022, and we went out to Hispaniola Island in March to see if we could successfully find them. And it was really exciting. The ultralight would fly over these areas. We would be on a fishing vessel, waiting for them in the ocean, and they would radio down when they would find whale sharks. And we managed to successfully find and tag a couple whale sharks. In the south, we have to change the game, and we do so by free diving because we cannot scuba dive and then be coming up and then jumping back in and coming up because that would be very dangerous. So the game changed completely. And really exciting, we also started looking at longer tracks. So with time, adjusting our tagging methodologies, our tags have started to stay longer on our whale sharks. So I want to share with you this amazing track from a whale shark called Elise that we tagged in 2024 up in Darwin Island. And what we saw was incredible. This whale shark left the Galapagos Islands and made it 3/4 of the way towards Hawaii. She seemed to be heading almost straight line towards Hawaii. And suddenly she turned around and instead of going to Hawaii, returned to the Galapagos. So after 385 days of tagging, we got this phenomenal track. She traveled over 20,000 kilometers during this time, and she came back to the Galapagos during the time of the year that we were not expecting her. Once again, verifying that we have to start studying these whale sharks during the warm season as well. And if we look even closer, what we saw was really exciting. So she arrived back to Galapagos in January. She had been tagged in July of the previous year. And what happened is she started heading straight down the coast of the west of Galapagos and making these zigzag movements and spending all her time on the surface. Not only that, but Elise stayed here for over a month. And as I mentioned before, most of the whale sharks we see in Galapagos, they stay 24, 48 hours and then they're gone. but that's up in Darwin and Wolf. So we were seeing a whole different story out west in the Galapagos. So seeing Elise's track, we thought, okay, we've been studying them since 2021. I think I said 22 before. Actually, it was 21 that we started studying them in Española Island. We thought we also have to study them out here, out west from Isabella Island. So we had a few kind of trials of going out with boats, didn't find them for a few years, kind of didn't know at what time of the year to search. But after seeing at Lisa's track, we thought, okay, between January to March, more or less, is when we're receiving reports out there and when Elise was found out there. So we went out there and started looking for her in a different manner. And I want to share a short video with you about the science that we began this year, 2026, out west in the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Whale Shark Project, Galapagos Science Center, and Galapagos National Park Directorate are working together to track the movements of whale sharks in a newly explored area. Western Galapagos. Partnering with local fishermen, the team led an expedition aiming to gather data on the existence of a possible aggregation of whale sharks from community reports in this area. The team conducted visual and aerial surveys during 6 days, supported by drones and fishermen vessels. A total of 4 whale sharks were sighted, being able to successfully tag 2 individuals. The use of satellite tagging will allow the team to follow the movements of these sharks and determine their connectivity to the constellation found in the north of the archipelago, as well as understand their distinct habitat use in different areas of the marine reserve. This marks a key achievement for the project, being the first individuals ever tagged in this area. Additionally, the team was able to get the first ever record of whale sharks actively feeding in Galapagos. The interinstitutional collaboration and work with local fishermen were vital to the success of this exploratory expedition. The information gathered by the satellite tagging and confirmation of whale sharks feeding in this area mark a crucial step towards understanding the importance of the Galapagos for their life history, which in turn will allow scientists to advise the implementation of management strategies that will protect whale sharks and their ocean. So this was really exciting because during this expedition, not only did we manage to successfully find and tag whale sharks from the west, but never before had we actually seen them feeding in the Galapagos. We had received reports from guides and fishermen that had seen them with open mouths out west, and they would tell us it seems like they're feeding. So this is something that we wanted to confirm because up in Darwin, the whale sharks that arrive don't feed and don't defecate. So they've probably been fasting for a while. To see how different areas of the Galapagos Marine Reserve might have completely different uses for whale sharks during different time of the year just highlights how important the Galapagos Marine Reserve and surrounding waters are to their life history strategies, right? And so it's really, really exciting. We no longer use the ultralight aircraft because it's really expensive to bring it, but knowing now where they're sighted, we're moving to drones. And to be able to use drones as this kind of aerial way of finding whale sharks has been super successful. Not easy. Sometimes we have our drone flyer put our drone up 17 times during a single day, just flight after flight to be able to find them because it's looking for a needle in a haystack. But little by little, we're understanding where and when they're found and what drives their movements here. And with that, we'll be able to further study them in these areas and then complete that puzzle piece that I was mentioning earlier, that because most of our tracks don't last a full year, we do need to tag them in different sites at different times of the year to complete that puzzle piece, to know where they are year round and where we need to protect them, where they spend most of the time, where they could be feeding, where they could be reproducing. Well, whale shark that we tagged, that's a battle that you saw in the video. We tagged her out west, and she also gave us an amazing discovery. She's now been called Darwin, and Darwin left the Galapagos, moved all the way out past Reserva Marina Hermandad, this new marine protected area, and headed so far north that she reached the exclusive economic zone of El Salvador. We had never registered a whale shark this far north from the Galapagos before, and let alone reaching another country's sites, right? So this is giving us new information that may help us understand a little bit more about their movement patterns, connectivity between the different constellations that are being studied in the Eastern Pacific. So it's all very exciting data indeed. And with the Galapagos Whale Shark Project, we wanted to make it an integral project. We didn't want to focus only on the academic side of things because conservation has to go beyond that. It has to be open source data, working collaboratively with the community and education. So what we're doing is we opened up regional collaborations. We're working directly with the Peru Whale Shark Project, and we're learning from each other. We're taking satellite tags down there before 2023 or 24. They had never tagged whale sharks there before, so we moved down there to help them tag whale sharks, and they're helping us modify our biopsy sampling techniques so that then we can take tissue samples of our whale sharks in the Galapagos. So these regional collaborations are essential so that we understand not only what's happening from the Galapagos, but what's happening regionally and learn from each other's techniques as well. Next, we decided that rather than using research vessels or dive liveaboards here in the Galapagos for our research, we would always work with fishermen vessels to be able to go out and carry out our research. This allows for a beautiful synergy to form where we learn so much from the people that spend most time out in the ocean. And the fishermen are the ones that are sending us most reports nowadays saying, hey, we just spotted another whale shark here and here and here, and helping us discover new aggregation sites even. And it's a beautiful synergy because we're also giving them an alternative lifestyle because fishing is hard work and it's something that they want to do. It's mainly artisanal fishing here in the Galapagos Islands that is relatively really well managed, but it's also giving them an alternative to not always have to go out just for fishing. And then we're also involved in education, making sure that we're participating in projects like the Gills Club, taking little girls from 8 to 12 years old out to do ocean-related activities, to learn about sharks, to learn about mangroves, just feel confident in the ocean so that then they grow up to become the stewards of the Galapagos as well. And I've been talking for a while now, so I just want to wrap up rapidly with why does this all matter? Why should we go out and spend resources, spend time looking for these whale sharks in such remote areas? You see, whale sharks are, unfortunately, an endangered animal. They were downgraded from vulnerable to endangered in 2016 because we've lost about half of their population in about 75 years. That's a single human lifetime that we've lost 50% of all whale sharks worldwide. What's going on with whale sharks worldwide? You see, fisheries generally worldwide are non-artisanal or non-selective. They're these industrial fisheries that unfortunately have a lot of bycatch, where a lot of non-selective prey is falling into the nets. And also we still have targeted fishing of sharks as well. Then we're seeing vessel strikes. As I mentioned, this is an increasing problem. And we're seeing whale sharks appear in the Galapagos with these huge gashes and huge scars. So this is a big issue as well. Marine pollution. We see how ghost nets are entangling around whale sharks, cutting through their pectoral fins, even amputating sharks. Or a whale shark that was found with a single straw in its gut died because that straw perforated its gut. So something as simple as one piece of a plastic straw can kill a whale shark. And then with climate change, with the warming oceans and the warming weather as we see right now currently with El Nino, this big El Nino which is starting, the whale shark distribution is changing. And so that's something that is a big issue as well. And with fishing, sometimes we say, well, it's something that's happening across the world. It's a problem that is, all the way out in Asia, but it isn't truly. It's happening all around the world. And here we can see how directly with whale sharks that we tagged in Darwin Island during one season, 3 out of 8 tags reported on land, 2 in Ecuador and 1 in Peru. So we were seeing this big overlap with fisheries. Once again, seeing them with these big gashes. So what we're doing right now in the Galapagos is going further than the research that we did with vessel strikes globally. Now we're looking at regional impacts and we're trying to analyze, okay, if we're having these issues with fisheries and vessel strikes, let's overlap directly right outside the Eastern Tropical Pacific and find these hotspots, these vulnerability hotspots, where they're most likely to fall prey as bycatch or to be caught off or to be hit by vessels as well, so that then we can talk to the proper stakeholders, to policymakers, and say, look, these are the areas where they're most at risk, and these are the areas we need to protect next, or where we need to create legislation to change fishing types or to slow down vessels so that we avoid these major impacts as well. And it goes further as well, because sharks are also caught, as I mentioned, as target fisheries because the shark liver oil is still being used in cosmetics, it's being used in sunscreen, it's being used in health products like joint pain medicine. So it's really, really important that when you buy these products, you make sure you don't read things like shark liver oil, or if you read things like squalene, most squalene is also shark liver oil. And you check that if you do buy things with squalene, it does say 100% plant-based, non-shark liver oil squalene, so that we are not a part of it as well. We may be even eating sharks without realizing. You see, shark meat, since so many sharks, whale sharks, and other sharks are caught as bycatch everywhere around the world with these non-selective fisheries, we may also be eating them with names that we sometimes don't recognize, like flake and moki and palombo and rock salmon, huss. And so it's really important the next time we go to our local chippies, we make sure that we are not actually eating shark meat as well. It's really important to know what fish you're eating and how it's caught at all times. Once again, as I mentioned, with climate change, distributions are changing. And if we don't know where the whale sharks are going to be, it's really hard for us to protect them as well. So this is something we're looking closely at. It's these changing distributions. But once again, I ask, why does this matter? You see, besides a whale shark's intrinsic right to live, sometimes we have to look further into other reasons why to protect sharks to make sure that all stakeholders care. You see, whale sharks are also economically really important. You see, people travel from around the world to see a whale shark, and a single shark through tourism can generate around $30,000 per year and over $2 million in its lifetime. Meanwhile, a single whale shark fin is being sold in the black market for about $20,000. So here we can definitely see a whale shark is worth more alive than it is dead. Ecological importance. These animals have a place in this big trophic web as well. And I want to show you just a short video of how important these are and how they're part of this beautiful system called blue carbon that is helping us battle climate change as well. Whale sharks' role in climate change mitigation. The ocean, through a variety of marine and coastal ecosystems, is one of the world's most important carbon sinks. Phytoplankton absorbs between 30 to 50 billion metric tons of carbon annually through photosynthesis. The CO2 is then transferred when the phytoplankton is eaten by the zooplankton and transferred once again when it is eaten by the whale shark. The larger and longer lived it is, the more carbon it stores. When the whale shark dies, its carcass sinks to the sea floor, where it can support deep sea ecosystems and be incorporated into marine sediments, taking this carbon out of the atmosphere for centuries. As a whale shark travels from coastal feeding areas to nutrient-deficient open ocean regions, it releases nutrient-rich feces that help phytoplankton grow and absorb more carbon dioxide into the ocean. The diving behavior of whale shark brings nutrient-rich water, including nitrogen, from the deep ocean to the surface. These nutrients enhance phytoplankton productivity, enabling them to absorb more dissolved carbon dioxide through photosynthesis.
Therefore, the restoration of healthy populations of whale sharks and other large marine vertebrates that play similar roles, and the protection of more key ocean areas is essential to restore the carbon cycle and support our battle against climate change.
So simply put, the more whale sharks and large marine megafauna we have in the ocean, the more they're helping us battle climate change as well. And then one of the final reasons why whale sharks are so important and whale shark research is so important is how they serve as charismatic species. You see, they're this big, beautiful animal that everyone wants to see underwater and everyone wants to protect. It's sometimes easier to protect the whale shark than it is to protect other species of sharks, commercially important species like tuna, or maybe some species, smaller species like serpulid worms that people don't even think about, little invertebrates. So by protecting whale sharks, we're protecting huge ocean areas where other species, endangered species, live. Whales and turtles and sharks, reefs are also all a part of the same ocean areas that we get to protect whilst we protect whale sharks, making them true ocean ambassadors. What's the goal of all this research? As Tom mentioned in the beginning, it's to pool it with everyone else's research in the region, understand what the key areas in the ocean are to protect next, not only inside these already protected areas like the Galapagos Marine Reserve, but it's to look out into the open ocean. It's to look at the exclusive economic zones and to see how we can work internationally to protect whale sharks. We were already super successful by doing so. We pulled the data from the whale sharks with tracks from sharks and turtles and whales from other researchers in the Galapagos, and we found these migratory corridors and managed to get the government to protect Reserva Marina Hermandad, a new marine protected area, 60,000 square kilometers protected in the north and west of the Galapagos Islands to make sure that the whale sharks and these other species had safe passage outside of the Galapagos towards Costa Rica and elsewhere in the ocean. Hopefully, with the hopes that in the future, these are then matched by each of the countries nearby to create this big protected migratory corridor around the oceans as well. So with that, I'd like to wrap up and say thank you to everyone that supports our project. It takes a whole army of collaborators, donor supporters to be able to carry this kind of research out. And also to thank all of you for listening in to this webinar this morning. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sophia. That was fantastic. You covered a lot of ground there. And yeah, I'm always blown away by the footage of you guys doing the field work, just the skill involved working with those huge animals. It's incredible. I think you just touched on it there, but one thing that maybe is just worth reminding everyone is to carry out this field work, you need satellite tags, fuel for boats, lab time. It all costs money. And, you know, to sustain this work, then we need to keep funding it. You can hear from what Sophia said today, how much has already been discovered and uncovered, but there's still so much still to learn about what's happening in our oceans. So if you're able to, then please do consider making a donation to GCT. You can head to our website to find out the various ways to support us, but it really does help to sustain projects like this on the ground in Galapagos. So we've got a little bit of time for questions, and I can see they're coming in thick and fast. So we'll get through as many as we can, but we might have to put some of these to Sophia afterwards and get back to you by email. I'm going to start with Genevieve, who is 12 years old and asks, what subjects should I be studying if I want to be a marine biologist working on projects like this?
Oh, I really like that question. And I would say do what interests you the most. So, of course, studying biology helps, studying any physical sciences help. But if you like communications, go for it. You know, marine sciences also need communicators. If you like maths, marine scientists need statisticians. So anything that interests you, you can then focus it to support marine science. So find your strong points and yeah, just keep going with them. Spend as much time outdoors, learn skills such as, you know, just being confident in the water, free diving, swimming, all of that helps if you want to work in marine sciences.
Great, thank you. So had a couple of questions about what you were talking about at the end there, the swimway, the Hermandad Reserve. Have you seen any impacts yet on marine conservation on those migratory species? I know it's still relatively early.
Absolutely, Tom. And it's really exciting to have these new marine protected areas because we do believe that we're going to see an impact in the future. However, I don't believe we've seen anything yet. When you create a new marine protected area, it's first the declaration, and that happened in 2022. Then it's creating the whole management plan, making sure that we have surveillance out in the open ocean, because without surveillance, a marine protected area is just a paper park. It exists in paper, but it's not truly applied in real life. So it's all happening right now. It's really exciting. And we're also seeing countries like Costa Rica match with the Bicentenario National Park suddenly kind of creating those new protected areas to fill in the gaps. But also, I think we need to go further. I think this is not enough to protect the whale sharks. You see, with the new ongoing research that I was telling you about, where we're looking at the overlap with fisheries and overlap with vessels, we're seeing hotspots right to the west of Reserva Marina Hermandad. And we know that certain fisheries are still allowed there, like porcine fisheries, longline fisheries that affect the whale sharks and our other sharks. That still has to change in those areas for us to be able to properly protect them. So I do believe we're going to be seeing great impacts from Reserva Marina Hermandad, but there's still so much more to protect.
Absolutely. So another question here, which I think relates to what's happening at the moment in the Pacific, where we've got this El Nino developing, so the El Nino climate phenomenon, a lot of reports say it could be one of the strongest on record. How is that affecting, or how is that going to affect the whale sharks and other marine species in Galapagos?
Uh, that's a really kind of complex image to look at, right? But just as an oversimplified idea, when we have these extra warm waters, what happens is warm water is less dense than cold water. And so the cold water stays super deep down, and we stop getting these upwellings of when this cold water reaches the Galapagos and comes up and fills all our water with nutrients that then allow a sprouting of phytoplankton, zooplankton, and then the whole food web, right? So when we have so much hot water, food for marine animals disappears. So for those that are coming to the Galapagos for feeding purposes, for our sea lions, for our penguins, for our marine birds in general, this is a scary time. There is no food available. We are lucky that we haven't seen large impacts yet, but what could happen throughout this year could be very scary, especially since with climate change, El Niño events are natural. However, the frequency at which they're happening and the strength at which they're happening is not natural. That's climate change, human-caused climate change. And then with whale sharks, we're just not seeing them. When we have El Niño years, they do not arrive. The front between the cold water and the warm waters that I mentioned they like to live at moves away. And so they just simply don't show up in the islands as frequently. We have sporadic sightings, but it's nothing compared to what we're used to seeing. So it's really hard to study them in El Niño years as well.
Great, thank you. Well, yeah, we're going to have to wrap things up, I'm afraid, as we're nearing the end of the webinar. I know there's questions we haven't got to yet, but we will send those on to Sofía afterwards to get back to you with an answer, hopefully. But yeah, thanks again, Sofía, for an amazing presentation. Thanks to all of you for attending, for your questions. If you'd like to join us in person and you're able to, we've got Galapagos Day happening in October. It's Thursday the 8th in central London. And this year it's going to be hosted by the writer and broadcaster Kate Humble. So that should be a brilliant evening to come along to. Do head to the website for tickets for that one. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone. And we'll hope to see you again soon at another GCT event. Thank you.